Okay, now we're going to install some tools and go from there. Okay. Might have to go ahead and pause this because I keep forgetting some of these are pretty long. Yep, it's got 7 packages. That's the one thing about Gentoo. Yeah, I better pause it. Some things take a while to install, but really, it's just patience. Well, I can sit here and talk. Really, if you don't have any kind of patience to let it do its thing, then you really shouldn't be using it. You just have to accept the fact that it's going to take a little time. Unless you have a multi-core system like, well, more than what we're using here, it's going to take some time. But you can. The one nice thing about Linux is you can install it on anything. You can install a modern system on any computer. The oldest computer I have is a Pentium 3, and it's maxed out on memory. It's got 768 gigabytes, or I wish it was gigabytes. It's got 768 megabytes of memory on it, and I can install Gentoo on there, and Window Manager and Firefox, and I can use it to surf the internet. It's a tad bit slow, but there's absolutely no way you could install Windows 10 on a Pentium 3. Even if you could get it to install, and there's no guarantee you could. But with Linux, you've got that option. So if you don't have a lot of money and you say go to a thrift store, or secondhand store, or even a yard sale and find an old computer, you don't have to run around and try and find an operating system to install on it, because Linux will work on it. There is always some version of Linux that will work on an older computer, and you can do, well, I'll tell you right now, one I can think of off the top of my head that would probably work real good is either Anti-X Linux or MK Linux, or MX Linux, I'm sorry. They're both mainly combinations of the two. And both of those two actually come from a version of Linux that used to be really good many, many years ago. But it was discontinued for some reason, called MEPIS Linux, which is spelled MEPIS. Kind of sounds like Memphis. And it was a nice distro. Had KDE as its desktop. I think the last version of it was 8.5. I don't know if it had a 64-bit version or not. I do remember the 32-bit version. It was a really nice distro, and it used the Debian. Don't know what version of Debian the last one was built on, but in most cases you could just use it after you installed it, and you didn't have to configure or fiddle with it. So that was something good. But I started using Gentoo once I figured out what I was doing around 2010. And I've been using it off and on ever since. Now I do use Linux Mint for everyday things, but I really like Gentoo. Uh, it it gives you the option to do and learn quite a few things. I'm not saying you couldn't learn things with other ones, but some of the other ones you have to go through, you've got to jump through hoops just to get to the point. Like compiling a kernel on Gentoo is fairly straightforward because it's already set up for it. Some of the other ones you would have to add a bunch of things to them just to be able to compile a kernel. And then you would have to learn whatever process they use to compile a kernel, if there's even documentation on it. So it's kind of hit or miss, but I guess it's one of the reasons I like Gentoo, because it's already configured and set up for someone that don't mind getting their hands dirty, let's say. And this should be done shortly. There ain't too much more to do. And then we can reboot the system. System log ng deals with, well, it's self-explanatory. It deals with system logs, boot logs, things of that nature. Okay, we may have to pause it because I don't want this video to go too long. Okay. Well, systemlog ng has compiled, so now I got to add it to the default run level, and go on with the rest of it. Okay, we got Cronny installed. Okay. All right. We are just about done. It doesn't take too long. Trying to do a video is what really makes it drag out. But shouldn't. You could do a copy and paste if you were just installing it in about. I can do one in about 2 hours, and that's on the other computer. The computer in front of me, I can probably do it a little bit sooner, but not by much. Okay, we're going to take another little pause while this goes through. I'm installing E2 FS programs, DOS FS tools, and the DHCP daemon in case I don't have networking when I get done with this. Alright, now all we have to do is the bootloader. I'm going to pick Grub 2. I know how to do Grub Legacy, and it's a little bit easier to edit the file, but I've gotten used to Grub 2 now, so I'm just going to stick with that. Okay, we have the bootloader installed, and I already installed to the hard drive. All we used was grub dash install, one word, no spaces, and then a space and /dev /sda. Now we're going to go through, and we got to edit one file. When I made the symbolic link for net.eth0, I have to change something in here. So I'm going to go and edit one file called it's at etc default grub. And we got to change, well, we got to uncheck something that's blocked currently, and it's right here, and it says in the comment, boot with network interface renaming disabled. Grub command line Linux is net.ifnames = 0. So now that we've got that taken care of, when we reboot the computer, ETH0 will work. Okay, now what we have to do is grub-mkconfig-o, and O I think is for out file. Okay, and that is it. We are done installing Gentoo. Now we need to exit and change directory. We can spell it correctly. And umount-l / and then there is a part of the manual that is incorrect, and it has a capital R. Once you get through all the options, after you unmount the Mount Gentoo dev, you're supposed to unmount the Mount Gentoo folder, and it's a capital R, and it should be a lowercase r for recursive. And if we go ahead and do it like the manual says, we're going to get an error. But if we do it with a lowercase r, like it should be, it'll go through just fine. And there we go. Now we're out. We've done the install. We can reboot the computer. But before I do that, I have to go upstairs and unplug the USB drive, reboot everything, and then I'll do a final video. And that's it for this one.